Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We have another beautiful and amazing woman, mighty woman of God to share and highlight with you. Welcome, Sandy Spain.
Thank you, Kari. It's great to be here. It's always
Oh,
great to chat with you.
I love it. Well, Sandy, oh my gosh, we've been connected a couple years through the magic of Facebook. And, I said a prayer shortly before we got on here, and it's just been such a divine connection. I'm so excited to have this time with you.
I'm excited too. I wanted to tell quickly how I actually met you. It was divine connection because I think it was an ad that you did maybe back in 2020, maybe, yeah, 2020. And the
Yeah.
Lord basically told me that night to go find that girl. And I was like, I just remember the beach theme and I remembered Kari and I had to come back and find you. And so it was very much divinely connect for us.
Amen. Yeah, and it was not easy. The company, the agency that I was using to do my Facebook ads, if you didn't watch my webinar right there in that moment, you didn't get sent the replay, you didn't get sent anything. And so I just am so grateful you followed the prompting of God and you were tracked me down because it was not easy.
No,
So,
I didn't have enough. I didn't remember enough of the details, which is funny for me. I just saw it, watched it, was like, I need that. And then God was like, go find it. So, yeah, that's how I
oh,
found you.
love that. Well, I'm so grateful you did. So I'm super excited to share with you all in this community the precious woman, a mighty woman of God, Sandy Spain. And she is incredible. She is a multi passionate kingdom entrepreneur. She spent 21 years in full time ministry alongside her minister husband, who is an ordained Anglican priest. So together they've built, owned, and operated a 106-acre Christian retreat center in rural Mississippi, where they still live and volunteer on property that is now being used by a Christian nonprofit that does recovery with drugs and alcohol. Such a beautiful thing. She also serves as a homeland missionary with Biglife in her home state of Mississippi. She has a passion for teaching discipleship and healing, and 15 years of experience in multiple healing prayer modalities with thousands of appointments to see God restoring brokenness through prayer. And Sandy co created with her husband Soulscaping. And this is so cool. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later. But Soulscaping is a process of combining spiritual coaching, spiritual disciples, and healing prayer modalities to cultivate the soul and begin to plant seeds for bearing fruit in life. I love the way you wrote that. That is so beautiful. That must have been divinely inspired too.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
Oh, and so God called her online in 2019 to build a life and a business that she would love and create avenues for income for the journey ahead. She finds joy in assisting others in their journey while she listens to and is building with God. So currently, Father has her studying frequency and the sounds she is responsible for releasing from herself as she assists others in releasing theirs as well. So, kind of our I don't know if there's a title for today. We are calling this Healing and Frequency of God. So, Sandy, I've been able to experience a little bit of this with you. It's been fascinating, but tell us more about this. How did you hear and are starting to learn and understand healing and frequency of God?
Well, basically, it all goes back to, just encountering God in an early age. And about the age of 26, I found myself starting life again. And I was actually had been married and became a widow at the age of 26, which was this horrific thing that's not supposed to happen to anybody, right? And
Right.
in that, I really found that I had a religion and not a relationship with the Lord. And so he began to just open as I would seek him. He would open up all these doors and avenues and just things that were beyond the norm for me. Unknowing to me, but now that I do know, I actually am a late adopter. I would be considered someone that you have to convince. Like if I did the DISC, which a lot of people are familiar with in business, the DISC assessment. I'm an S, high S's can go, and a C, which is the caution part. And so I'm not easily persuaded about a lot of things. Like God really has to continually speak to me and let me know that it's okay. So the first thing that we really did, that I really had to conquer in my journey, and it's still a daily thing for everybody, but is to get rid of the fear, the unbelief, whatever's holding me back, the distractions or whatever. But ultimately, I had to learn who I am, and that really didn't come till later in the journey. So, I'm a newly, widowed woman, and I'm seeking God for everything, and I get thrown into, different things here and there that I wasn't expecting. And then I meet my now husband 3 years into the process. And as we began a journey, he was actually looking for healing for within himself. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I wired like this? And all those kinds of things. And so his journey led to my journey, and us together to really not just seek knowledge, but to find answers to the questions that we had, is God big enough to handle this? Like the Bible says this, but my traditions or religious background tells me this. And so it's like we began to just dig in and study, and I had no idea. I laugh now because I had no idea in this journey that like this wasn't normal. Like most people don't like read every healing passage in the Bible and go study everybody in history that's taught on, biblical or Christian healing, or, like there's all these different modalities out there. I didn't know it wasn't normal for us to go take all of them, like to do the trainings to get the, not only did we seek to get understanding for ourselves and healing for ourselves, but we learned how to do it to give it to others. And so we started this retreat center dream of mine in it was 2006. And I realized then that I was living in a supernatural way with God that I didn't see in other people. And it wasn't that they couldn't do it. It's just that I didn't even know then I was doing it. And so like I'd have this, one story after the other that I would start to share, and people would be like, what? Like that doesn't happen. Like that's not normal. Kind of like your story, Kari, about when you told me how you lived in that house all those years without having to pay for it. Like you had rent free, or, like they kept trying to take it. And I would have been so fearful, back in that day that I couldn't have functioned. And so it was like God began to open doors and show me like Sandy, this is what I want you to really live in. This is the abundant life that you sang about in the youth choir that you thought you were walking in, but you were just scratching the surface. And so as we, began to dig for more and found it, I mean, we've tried every modality. Like we had our initial really, people that coached us started out Sozo and Freedom Tools and, Freedom Prayer, and just things that kind of now seem basic for a lot of people. But back then they were like the thing, and we were the only ones in our area that did anything like it. So when people would find out that they would have problems and they had tried everything and they couldn't find a solution, we would be inundated with appointments. And so it's like we kind of got almost forced, to start really walking in it and doing that. And it was just life-changing, because the more I gave away to other people by being willing to hear all their issues and problems and help them find a solution by walking with God and hearing him, the more it blessed me, because it would be uncanny, Kari. We would have somebody sitting in front of us, and it would be like, we pray, God, who do you want to come and want us to minister to? We built this retreat facility. We didn't know what the heck we were doing with it, but we built it, like people are going to show up, right? And we started praying, and God would send broken down ministers, and they would be all different denominations, all Christian, but all different Christian denominations. And they would all say the same sort of thing about the brokenness they had in them, not being able to share it with other people. And we became a safe place for them to land. And it was such a blessing, because my husband would look at me, and the uncanny part was he and I would have been talking about something that we were dealing with or whatever. And in a session that very day, that person that had no clue what we were dealing with would open a door to God about something, sometimes exactly the same words we'd said. And we were like, he not only brought them healing, he brought us healing at the same time. And so you see the contagiousness of that. You see that, like it. And so what happened was, though, we had so much else going on. I'm really detailed. I thought that was a bad thing because I'd always heard the devil is in the details, you know.
Oh my gosh, right?
And I thought that was a bad thing. So it was like I didn't know that God was using the details to help me help other people. And so as we began to, to kind of realize what God was doing with us and through us, and a lot of it has just been discovered in the last few years. We look back and we're like, God took us through all these things, and and we survived it, and we remember it, and we give praise to Him for it. But had we not gone through those details, had we not done those things, even so some of them were hard and horrible, we wouldn't be who we are today. And I had to learn not only who I am, but I had to learn who God is, and I had to decide whether He's going to be good or He's not, because He can't be both.
Yep.
Says in the word, we can't be doubly minded, and double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Well, we attribute that to God sometimes. We're like, He does bad things, right? And it's like, no, He didn't cause these things to happen. This is what the world we live in and the circumstances. So a lot of it's just us taking and me detailing out in me, Sandy, what does this mean? God, tell me what that means. And then just be willing to dive deep. I mean, I will say I was super religious. I was very legalistic. I can still lean that way sometimes now, but it's just like God uses those things to teach me more things. He uses who I am to teach me and to teach other people about Him. So anyway, I hope that that's kind of it. But the frequency, okay, so the frequency thing I want to tell you about is God is so be Him, because how life is a journey, and we all get to choose whether we're going to follow Him and we're not. And so when I chose to follow Him and I jumped all in, He said, okay, Sandy, you've got to start trusting me. When I repeat stuff and you see things multiple times, it's not a coincidence. It is you need to pay attention. And so about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, we entered a season that was extremely hard for us. We had our retreat property on the market for about 4 years at that time and had not had a buyer. And we'd heard God say, go. And so I'm like packing in 2 weeks ready. Like I'm used to this, like you tell me to do it, God, and I know it's you going to do it. But in that journey, He was teaching me to listen more carefully. And so this 3 years ago, He told me to be still. Okay. And I don't know about you, but when God says be still, I'm like, can I do the dishes? Can I, like, what does that mean, God? Like, and so it was not really that literally don't physically do anything, but it was like, you need to let all the distractions go. You need to hone in on just hearing from me, and you need to seek my face till you know what you need to know. And it wasn't easy. It was very difficult. And at first I didn't like it, but then it got to be almost like it was helpful, and it was almost an excuse to be able to tell people, sorry, I can't do that. Or because I'm the kind of person you ask me, and if I can do it, I'm going to help you regardless. Like it's just going to be a done thing. And I had to start telling people no more than I had been. And so this frequency thing, God's really just started giving me over the last year. And it's been this repetitive, and I've been hesitant. Like I know how to hear Him for myself, but like I almost needed Him to supernaturally do something different. So I came to the prophetic night. I had seen Vanessa a few years ago come several times, to hear other people get words. And I'd had a word from her maybe in 2020, but I came, I don't know, a month or so ago, and you knew about the frequency stuff because I had asked you about, like what you thought, and about this new tool that I'm going to show you guys today. And I'm like, some of it's just kind of out there, and I'm just not sure, because you hear so much about the world. And so I was like, I need a word sort of, but I'm not really going to ask for it. And you, Kari, said, hey, Cindy, I got you on the docket. If you want a word tonight, get one. And my husband's like texting me going, get a word from Vanessa, get a word from Vanessa. And I didn't say anything about any of that. Anyway, so Vanessa pretty much just, hears from God. And as you know, she just reads your mail, and you're like, those are words from God that is so profound that there's like no doubt about it. So that's actually the night I signed up to do this spotlight. I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, Sandy, why are you restricting yourself here? Like, Kari's opened this up, just go for it. And she talked about frequency. She talked about my voice. And that's been something through all the years and all the personal and spiritual development that God has continually brought back up, because through all the things I've experienced with my inner healing, I had had some traumatic things that happened to me as a very young child that squelched my voice, that made me not believe in being able to hear God or know God or whatever. And so those things have opened up, he's begun to give me more of a voice. And so we've geeked out on all kinds of things through the years on brain science and studies and what it does to addiction, people with addiction of all sorts. And so I love following Dr. Darlene on here and all of her wonderful insights into how our brain functions and works, because I'm just like all over that. But the frequency was, for me, was more about emotional stuff, because over time, God's really worked with me with emotions. I tend to be gifted in an abundance of emotion, good and bad. And I know that emotion kills logic. Like if I need to make a decision and I can't get through that emotion to be able to hear and see God and receive from him, then I don't make good decisions. And so emotion kills logic. And so, I was looking for a way to be able to help other people to understand really what goes on physically within us. And so this frequency that God keeps talking about is walking with him, and like how in creation he created everything with his voice, with words that he spoke, and how everything that he's made has a vibrational frequency, which sounds like things that we don't want to talk about because the new age people talk about it. But the fact is, they use it because God already created it. It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with him. And so what's happened is Brandon and I have really worked to try to understand and be able to redeem through God's eyes the things that are redeemable, that he wants us as a body to walk in. Because this is what Vanessa and I geeked out about this when we chatted a while back, is there's a voice that we have to use our voice. We have to hear his voice. We have to use our voice. And if we are not resonating and saying and doing and declaring and proclaiming and prophesying and singing the praise and thankfulness and gratitude and whatever, if we're not doing that, then we're responsible for that. Then there are things that aren't happening around us and in our world that won't happen because we aren't being who he created us to be. And I guess that's where our passion for understanding this comes in. And the emotional states that we get in, like Dr. Darlene has talked about before too, our emotional states are so important, because if we don't respond and resonate where we should be, then it affects others around us. Like if mama gets up in a bad mood, my whole household's in a bad mood, and it's just like, why do I do that? But time in his presence. Okay, so let's go back. Think about Moses. He goes up the mountain to see and be with God. The people are down there waiting for Moses to come back. And when he comes back, what happens? He is shining. He is vibrant. He is alive. He's resonating because of the presence of the Lord. And so if we can enter that, basically the unseen, that realm of being with him, we begin to shine like that. I don't even know how to express it. Now, do I always shine like that? Absolutely not, because I'm still broken vessel, and this side of heaven I haven't arrived, but I've left. I'm trying, I'm working, I'm really not trying even. I'm just placing myself in a position so that when he outpours on me, I can outpour on others. And it takes work. It really takes work. It takes a lot of, just, practicing it, staying in his presence on a daily basis. And so, anyway, I'm excited about the frequency because we found a tool that I want to just share with you guys today. And I have at the end, we'll talk about where to get it. But basically it's a scanner thing, y'all. And I mean, this totally, when I heard about it, was like weirded me out. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to let somebody do this to me. But it's about our inner voice. And what is so profound about it, and God started teaching me through it, is when we use our voice and we speak into this, and we actually speak, it takes into account the frequency of what we are speaking, and it gives us feedback about what levels and that we like. Let me see if I get it to load again. It went off right at the most inopportune time. Okay, it gives us like the top 3 frequencies and the supportive like chords and notes and balancing harmonics that we need in ourselves. Because what happens is, especially in sales, you get to the end, you're all excited about your product, and then you open your mouth, and Kari was so sweet like you were really new when I came in, and you were so sweet with the words that you said. But sometimes, in our voice, even that matter what we say, the way
Yes.
we say it matters. And so with this, it actually gives you balancing harmonics that you can listen to that are supposed to help put you back in balance with where your voice should be. It's not like magic, but it's really fascinating. It's more for research and education purposes right now, but this scanner actually does all kinds of other things, which is what I really want any health coaches or anybody on here that's interested in that to maybe hit me up for or talk about. I haven't learned enough about that part of it yet to really be able to read the scans it does, but it's fascinating. So I've experimented on a few people. I would just pray and then go online, and God would highlight somebody, and I'd say, I will pray for you all day about healing. I'm all about laying on hands. God heals in many ways. We've seen miracles happen, and I'm praying for you. However, if you'd like to do the scan, and they would, and it would give me things that only our bodies would be able to tell us. I mean, God could tell us that we had something somewhere, but only our bodies could tell us that where we keep and house those emotions and the effect that's having on our health.
Yes.
And those were things over time, like God started to express to me was my physical health. That's really what he highlighted to begin with in my 20s, was how I would get so emotional. I would have body aches and pains, and I'd never been formally diagnosed with anything, but I would have symptoms like all my friends that had fibromyalgia and all these other crazy things. Mm-hmm. But I realized every time I got super emotional, that's when I would react and have those issues. And some of it was diet, some of it was health issues. So it's like we're so complex, that it could be multiple issues. But when I started having the healing prayer regularly and seeking God and doing all those things that we know we can do, and then in conjunction with other tools that we find with the technology, it's just amazing the way that it begins to calm you down. I'll have a stressful day, and especially we've been seeing with depression, this thing's been really great with people that need an elevation or a boost. And we've prayed for tons of people, and we've seen people delivered from it. But it's like sometimes it's like a cat purring. You know how cats, I mean, this is fascinating, but cats will purr when they're sick or they're hurting or even when they're happy. But it's like they already know their body needs to up their vibrational frequencies to bring healing. Okay. So, mind blown there, right? And it's like,
didn't know that.
All these little things keep popping up that just lead me back to this. God wants me to study it. He wants me to understand it better. He wants me to share it. He wants people to know, And anyway, it's just the amazingness of God. If we dare to go there or dive deep or to understand things beyond our own understanding that he can give us. So,
Oh yeah. His goodness never ends, and it just keeps unraveling and unraveling. And I feel like this is part of it. And you guys, I've done this. It is easy. Like 20 seconds, honestly. You just are repeating some phrases, and then you get this amazing report, again, with a little bit of the healing frequencies that were going to help with dealing with what I was dealing with, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the way we kind of started this was actually probably, it might have even been longer than 15 years ago, but we had noticed that when we played, Brandon had stumbled upon somehow these healing tones that are just music. Yeah. And we started realizing when we played them, our kids acted calmer at night. They'd go to bed more easily. I mean, it was just experimenting with things and not even really knowing what we were doing, but it was like, hey, if this works, then do it. Right. And, and so we just started implementing some of this in our one-on-one Soulscaping appointments, where we go in and we just use whatever tools the Holy Spirit really highlights for us to use for that person, because everybody comes to us with brokenness. The most common phrase we've ever heard out of thousands of appointments is, I'm not good enough. Like, everybody says it. It's the number one thing. I mean, and I don't know, any of you that have had any kind of, inner healing or really dug deep into personal and spiritual development, you may have come up with that yourself, but there's just things that only God can do in those appointments and those times. There's only things that he can do by us hearing different frequencies or knowing that we need that. It's just like, I just feel like it's this tool that he wants us to develop more. And and so we've started using it, like I said, in our appointments, and we've started to see some things that people come back and they're like, you know what, I really feel better when I do that, or this, like I didn't think about the fact that I had a really bad day because, like I didn't get up and pray, or and I didn't do the frequencies, the tones, the harmonies, whatever I didn't do, and so I'm like, well, that's not necessarily what caused it, but it does help if we get in alignment and stay there. And so this is just a tool to help get back in alignment. So it's kind of cool.
Amazing.
I know I've been all over the place. I'm multi-passionate. I have way too many things I can talk about.
I'm right there with you. It's all good. Just how God created you. You're perfect. So, okay, a couple things. At one point, you mentioned, there was stuff you were learning about God and stuff you were learning about yourself. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that, especially through entrepreneurship? Because I think most of the ladies in here are somewhere starting, they're getting going, and it may not be easy. What have you learned, and is there anything you can encourage them with?
The number one thing I would say that I learned about God is that He wants to do things with us. He doesn't want us just to do things for Him. Because early in our journey, I built a retreat center from a dream that I dreamed with Him, but I did it for Him. And it caused a lot of problems in our life. Now, there were things I did with Him, but the fact is that He wants, it's like this. It's like He says, here's a recipe. Let's go make cookies. And the next thing you know is you've made these cookies and you taste them. They don't taste that good. And you're like, God, I followed the recipe. And He said, but where was I in that? Like, you just went and did it. Like, I gave you the recipe. You just went and did it. You didn't say, okay, God, how about this? Let's add this many more, chocolate chips. Let's add this much, you didn't do it. And so my thing is to do it. We partner with Him. He came to partner with us. And I mean, like, I don't even know that people even in this group, they probably do, but a lot of people don't even realize or can't fathom that we have the same Holy Spirit within us that raised Jesus from the dead. And it's like, if He can do that with Jesus, and then He says, we're to do greater works than these, what does He want to do with us? Mm-hmm. And it's just in our willingness to do that. So I would say number one with God, like I said, is just to do it with Him, and stop and take, inventory on where you are. Like, oops, God, I just did all that for you. Like, it's all about deeds. It's all about good works. It's all about, no, it's about relationship. And then, what's really taught me about me was that I can have good ideas, and a lot of those will work because I've done a lot of good things. I've done a lot of good ideas. Or I can have God ideas, and I have to discern what the difference is, because that's where He wants to be with us. He wants to be with us in a supernatural, give and take relationship here. And consistency really matters. Like, I've learned about myself that the more consistent I've been, the better the result that I ultimately will get. And it's for His glory. Like, we can do things as unto men, or we can do things as unto God. And so when I have been submissive and I actually say, okay, God, I feel like You told me to do this, and I'm just doing it because You said to do it, it all turns out fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's when I don't do those things that I know He told me that I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work, is it? And usually it doesn't.
Yep. Amazing. Well, we are almost at the end of our time, but I just want to make sure that ladies know how to connect with you, and then the beautiful offer that you have for them. So, yeah, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, you can friend me here on the group in Facebook. I also have a website called nevergiveupgirl.life. So nevergiveupgirl.life. And then you do /free, FREE, free. That'll be all my complimentary resources. It has a place on there to join my Facebook group, Supernatural Transformation. Also has a place to get your free scan. If you're interested in that, want the inner voice, want to know more about what it is, how to get maybe a scan for yourself if you're into coaching, and God's been talking to you about this too. More information is there, and you can always set up a time to chat with me. I have some availability. There's a link on there as well. So
thank you, Katie, as always, for putting the link there.
Katie, thanks.
Yeah. She's amazing. But yes, guys, Sandy is amazing. She's the real deal. I have walked with her for the last several years and just seen her obedience and surrender to God, and it is a beautiful thing. So you will be blessed to just know her. And yeah, definitely would encourage you to connect and even, pray about the scan. It honestly, it was very cool. Very, very cool. So anything else, Sandy, that you want to leave us with today?
Um, I know we had talked about just some tips to, like go forward with, and how the best thing I could say is just to be true to yourself and to God by, like we want more success in our life, but we have to be willing to pay for it. We have to do what's called immediate, radical, costly obedience, which is how Abraham followed God. And it only comes with continually putting yourself in his presence. And so that immediate, radical, costly obedience is needed in entrepreneurship. And you're not going to find
Yeah.
success without it, basically.
So true. So true. Yeah, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't, I mean, it would, if you knew everything, it would not be faith and trust. And that's really
Exactly.
what he wants from us. It's more than
But
anything.
ultimately, you never give up. That's what I was trying to say. Ultimately, you never give up. You just stand up again. You're like, I didn't do that right, did I? God, how do you want to do it now? Like, what's the best way to do that? And it
Mhm.
doesn't always. It's not always easy, but it's
Yeah.
always good. He's always good.
Right. Yeah. I've used the word failures way too much in my life. Now I just see them as learning experiences.
Oh,
And that's
you
really
know,
what it is.
yeah, that's what we call it, success tax. We paid
I love that even
a
better.
lot of success tax. Yeah.
So good. I love it. Well,
Thank you, Karen.
Sandy, it's been such a blessing to have you on here. Thank you again. And yeah, go connect with her, guys. You're going to love her. And we'll see you back next week, next Tuesday, same time, same place. Love you all. We'll talk to you later.